Hello, this is Angela with Permaculture. I had not intended on making a video today. I have been painting my shed. I finished all of the body of the shed earlier today. My next door neighbor Ben loaned me his paint sprayer. I was like really loath to use it because I'm kind of a Luddite and anything that smacks of technology seems like really overwhelming, but Ben kept saying, no, you'll get it done really quickly. It'll be really easy. And it's just such a time saver. And so after he explained how it worked, I realized, it's just like when I took ceramics in college and you have a glaze sprayer to spray your vessels and vases and plates and things that you make. It works just like that. So I was very, very pleased. I got it done really quickly, and now I'm gonna come back and paint all of the trim with a brush. But I wanted to take a break here for just a couple of minutes to talk about something that continues to make the rounds. It's something that tends to creep up every summer as folks are in the midst of their annual veggie gardening. And that is what happens when you grow your cucumbers next to your melons, next to your squash. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions that tend to sort of churn in the social media environment. And I think some of those myths are predating much of social media, but they continue to get perpetuated. So I wanted to dispel a few of them today. Now I have a lengthy video that I did last year where I broke down a lot of the misconceptions folks have about the squash, cucumbers, and melons that we grow. I'm a firm believer that the more we can, as gardeners, embrace that kind of self-education in botany and in sort of basic biological concepts, the more we will be resilient gardeners. Not only does it empower us to understand what is happening in our garden, it helps us dispel those myths. So if you're interested in a more in-depth breakdown, please go watch that video. I spent a lot of time on it last year. I wanted to be really thorough. And it talks about the issue of toxic squash. It talks about cross-pollination. It talks about mutt pumpkins. It's a very good video. But I thought it deserved a little reiteration here. Folks once again are saying like, okay, I have this weird looking squash growing in my yard. What is happening? And the responses are typically always, it's been cross-pollinated, and it is a mix of a squash and a melon. And then I will just like gently weigh in, actually, did you know that can't really happen? And folks will say, well, it definitely happened. I'm sure it did. I had a mix of a cantaloupe and a summer squash in my garden, a spaghetti squash and, like a watermelon or something like that. So I thought I would just take a couple minutes to explain why that's not possible and why we don't need to worry as gardeners. So if we look back to our biology 101, where we look at what is the definition of a species. When taxonomists are deciding how to break apart organisms into smaller and smaller and smaller groups, right? Obviously starting with kingdom, and then we're breaking all the way down until we get down to species or subspecies. What makes a species? When I have, let's say, Rubus parviflorus, which is the thimbleberry, versus the Rubus occidentalis. Why are those in two different species? Why aren't they in the same species? They look really similar. They have similar growth habits. They're in the same genus. The way that we differentiate between species is, are the two organisms able to sexually reproduce together and have viable offspring? If they are not in the same species. I think that's a really important concept for those of us that are growing annual veggies that require pollination by pollinators for their sexual reproduction, that we understand how that process works. So if you have the pollen from one species and a pollinator takes it and puts it onto the female flower of another species, those are genetically incompatible and you will not get offspring. The example I typically give is when folks are saying, well, cucurbits are all one family. So melons, squash, pumpkins, they're all in the same family. So they totally can cross-pollinate, Angela. And my response is always, okay, well, let's look at eggplants and tomatoes. They're in the nightshade family, but they cannot cross-pollinate. You can plant your tomato plant next to your eggplant and they are not going to make weird seeds from their cross-pollination. They're not genetically compatible. The same is true with our squashes and our melons and our cucumbers. They are all in different species, and in fact, different genus are happening here in this family. Cucurbitaceae is a family. It's a big, large family. In fact, when we look at families, we look at the Rosaceae. That includes roses, and it also includes blackberries. Those things cannot make babies with each other. They cannot make viable seed. The same thing when we're looking at Citrullus lanatus, the watermelon, and we're looking at, Cucurbit pepo, the zucchini. They can't make babies. They're not closely related. They're not in the same species. They cannot make viable offspring. So when we're talking about cross-pollination in our cucurbits, what we're really talking about here is two different varieties in the same species are able to cross-pollinate, and that forms what you would call a mutt pumpkin. They have to be in the same species. We have carefully taken our ancestral, let's start with Cucurbit pepo. We've taken our ancestral cucurbits there, our field pumpkin, and we have created from it all of these different varieties. We've created zucchini, we've created all kinds of different summer squash, crookneck squash, we've created spaghetti squash, we've created our field pumpkins. They all look really genetically distinct from each other, but they are actually in the same species and they can cross-pollinate. But you cannot take two distinct species, and if we're looking at, like our melons, Cucumis mellow, and we're looking at, our sweetmeat squash, which is in Cucurbita maxima, we cannot breed those together. And so that gives us a great amount of freedom as gardeners, that we know we can plant our melons next to our cucumbers, next to our pumpkins, and we don't have to worry about what the bees are doing. We don't have to worry about what's happening. We're not going to get weird fruit that results, both because cross-pollination does not impact this year's fruit. This year's fruit is the mature ovum of the plant that you planted, and it will exhibit the characteristics of the variety that you planted. But also because the seeds can only be a mixture of the genetics of two distinct plants from the same species. So when we have these garden myths that are predicated on, lots of kind of, lore that gets passed down, and perhaps like a little bit of a lack of understanding of how botany works, how sexual reproduction works in our plants, we have so much power to self-educate. As somebody who today learned how to use a paint sprayer for the first time, I am a big proponent of we can always be learning, we can always be teaching ourselves things, we can always be expanding our knowledge, and that makes us more resilient gardeners, more resilient homesteaders, more resilient people in general. So I don't want you to have any fear. If you are interested in going down a rabbit hole about how sexual reproduction in plants works, I find that kind of stuff fascinating. Maybe you will too. But you can definitely grow your different cucurbits next to each other and know that you are not going to get a weird mix of a melon and a squash. It just can't happen because they're not in the same species. I hope that is helpful to you all. I just felt it was really important to take a couple minutes and explain that, because it is that myth that just really churns around on the internet this time of year. And I see it repeated so much, folks asking, why is this squash looking weird? And folks telling incorrect information that I'm sure they believe sincerely, but it's just not quite right. If you have your weird looking squash, it could be because it's immature. For example, spaghetti squash or Connecticut field pumpkins start out green. It could be because you have planted the seeds of something that cross-pollinated last year, and so you are getting a mix of the parents' genetics from last year, and it could exhibit a whole range of characteristics. It may be because of poor pollination, it may be because of all kinds of environmental factors, but I guarantee you are not getting a melon squash hybrid. Not possible. That would not be something that you could find in your garden. So I know for me, I am growing my Cucurbita maxima next to my Cucurbita pepo and next to my Cucumis sativus, and no worries whatsoever. I feel totally fine about all that, and I know that I will get my sweetmeat squash, and I will get my zucchinis, and I will get my pickling cucumbers all out of my garden exactly as I expect. Thank you for watching today. I hope that you will come back tomorrow. I have loads going on in my permaculture garden this time of year, and loads going on with house projects as well. please check out my blog. I have rebooted it and I'm trying to work on building content there. I try and go into topics that I cover on this YouTube channel, but perhaps more in depth or a different angle on them, kind of fleshing them out a little bit. And I also talk about things that I never talk about on this YouTube channel. So I hope that there is additional helpful information over there for you. I'll be back soon. Thanks.